Okay, looks like we're live inside the Authentic Man Facebook group. We got Josh here. Josh is on my laptop. So we've had to sort of give me this one up a little bit today. So you guys won't be able to necessarily see Josh, but you should be able to hear Josh, hopefully. So as you guys jump on, or if you jump on for just a few minutes, you'll be able to watch this recording later. So as you guys know, alright, so as you guys know, we have tech issues and the Skype call just dropped out, so that's pretty normal as well, with Skype especially. So let me just bring Josh back on here. Alright.
Okay. Am I on?
Yeah, you're on, Josh.
Okay.
So our Skype call dropped out, the Facebook Live kept going. So anyway, we'll see how we go with this, and we'll just do our best, really. So what I'm going to do, guys, is hopefully you guys can hear Josh on the laptop here, and what we'll try to do next time is we're going to try hook up a Google Hangout so that it's just fully live stream all the way. So cool. All right, Josh. So did you want to share with the guys? I know I already posted in the group a little bit about yourself. How you've been a lifelong martial artist, you're a health and fitness coach, you're from Texas, and you've got, basically, hey Stephen, hope you're well. We've had a lot of conversations, and you've got a lot of skill sets, and you've had a lot of experience in the military and these different areas. And so I thought to myself, after our last conversation, a lot of guys would really love to just listen in on this conversation or engage in this conversation. And so this is really an opportunity for the guys here in the group only. Hey Stevie, yeah, good to see you. Hopefully you can hear Josh. Josh is gonna, we're just gonna roll straight into it, Josh, and just basically have a conversation. I'm gonna put the laptop down somewhere, probably on my lap, so you guys won't be able to see it on your Facebook Live. But you should be able to hear Josh as well as we're having this conversation. Next time we'll hook up a Google Hangout. Cool. So Josh, did you just want to, I know we've got a few awesome topics that we're gonna have a little yarn about. Bit of a chat. Did you want to share with the guys a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just roll into it, have a combo.
Sure. Yeah, well, I'm from Dallas, Texas, but I grew up in Houston, and I'm a former Marine, and I'll just give you a quick rundown really quick. Former Marine, and I majored in kinesiology. Fell in love with fitness when I was pretty much 14 years old, and just kind of fell in love with self-development, self-improvement. Started reading that literature at an early age, probably about 16, 17, and have been kind of attracted to the self-development field ever since I was that age. So, and I've just tried to expand and grow my life in all areas, business-wise, as a single, entrepreneur with my own business, and my relationship life, my physical life, my spiritual life, and mentally just growing all the time, overcoming challenges. So that's always kind of come natural, this idea of transcending to the next level and growing to the next level. So yeah, that's my background. I have 3 sisters, and I won't bore you with any small details, but let's get right into it.
Fantastic, man. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing that. So I'm just going to put the laptop down so that I'm not being distracted by holding a laptop up. So Josh gets to, I'm just going to angle the camera here so that Josh and I can actually hang out a little. All right, cool. So awesome, man. So there's some really interesting topics that the guys posted in, that you guys posted in yesterday as we're launching this movement. And this movement, I guess I firstly just wanted to say this movement isn't about me. It's not about Josh. It's not about each individual. It's about all of us as a whole, and what we can gather out of being in momentum and being able to gain traction and get those lessons and learnings from an accumulation of experiences. So we had some really cool suggestions from you guys, and I'd love to just explore some of those today. And so we've got a couple here already that we posted in the live. Josh, do you happen to have them on your end, or you want me to pull them up here?
Yeah, I got a few of them, but go ahead and pull them up.
Perfect.
And, yeah, we could get going.
Perfect. All right. So the first one we've got here is developing. You want to start at the top there? We've got developing self-awareness, or is there? I think you mentioned identity. Why being decisive is crucial to identity and relationships?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start because self-awareness, which is like, I think one of the most important attributes to have nowadays, but it can't begin to be understood until we understand identity and just who we are and what we're about and what we want in life. Without a strong sense of identity, you really can't attract the type of people you want in your life. You can't grow into what you really want to become without having a firm roots planted. So everything stems from identity. And I think we could kind of boil the definition down, just that it applies across the board. Just identity is basically, I think, a simple psychological way to understand it is it's your preferences. It's what you say yes to, what you say no to. So someone who has like a weak identity, they don't have a lot of preferences. They don't have a lot of opinions. If I tell you, my name's Josh and I love lifting weights, I'm a martial artist, I love women, I have 3 sisters, I, read a lot of books, I say yes to rock music, no to country music. These are all things, just from that list alone, you have a better sense of what I say yes to, what I say no to, and my identity. Someone who doesn't have preferences have a weak identity, and when you have a weak identity, you're kind of a pushover in life, you know what I mean? You're kind of walking through the world without boundaries. So I think that's a good place to start is as a man, being sized up and being judged on your value can only be done when it's clear who you are, and that comes with where you say yes in your life and where you say no in your life. So what do you think, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. It reminded me when you just said that of a quote from, I can't remember who quoted it, but it was, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. And, once you get that, then, when you can't be respected without an identity, and ultimately people can't love something they can't respect, and you can't lead anyone until you're clearly defined with what you're about in your life. And this is where, self-awareness comes in, because we need self-awareness to know who we are, and the more self-awareness you have, the better you'll be able to gauge what's effective, what are effective strategies for you to use in the world, in your relationships, in your work life, where you're succeeding, where you're failing. This is all your ability to have self-awareness. And so, how do you grow in self-awareness is basically the question. And basically, there's a few things you can do, but it's not going to be done without really spending some time alone, some time in solitude, some time where you could think, because we live in a distraction-based culture. We have a lot of things being filtered in, vying for our attention and our time, and you need some alone times. Maybe you could journal, you could meditate, you can just get alone with your thoughts, and so you could go inside and intrinsically start to understand what you value, what your principles are, how you're going to navigate through the world. Because this is what self-awareness is all about, is just understanding yourself. So another good thing you could do besides that alone time is ask your friends. Ask your friends, the ones who really know you, even if it's just 1 or 2 people, just say, what do you like about me? What do you think my strengths are? And have them tell you that, and then ask them what your weaknesses are. And you're going to have to kind of put your ego aside. I know they're your friend, but tell them to take the kid gloves off and to really just let you have it. Like, where are you really weak, and where do they see you being really strong? And that feedback is gold. You'll get a lot of good info just from that, and just ask your close people, those who really know you, whose opinion you trust, and so that will really help that self-awareness. Without it, it's I've noticed notice people who really lack self-awareness, they're not really in the higher rungs of society. They're not, the more intelligent people are definitely have an obscene level of self-awareness. They know where they're weak, they know where they're strong, and you can't grow in your weaknesses if you don't know what they are or where they are. And so, you got a lot of people with big egos, but they're walking around delusional, and they wonder why their relationship life is weak here, or their business is suffering here, or they're just failing to meet these goals. So self-awareness is a foundational element to growing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you're saying there about asking your friends about what they think your weaknesses and your strengths are, and how they perceive you. Can you think of a specific time when you went and asked a friend or you went and asked a family member some of these questions, like you went and you wanted to get that reflection and you got a specific time? Can you go back to a time? Can you think of a time like that?
Yeah.
Maybe more recent.
I did it with a buddy a few years back, and he had me list kind of the things I really valued. This was when I was thinking about a career change. I was actually going to go in law enforcement because I was so I was tired of training with the maxed out schedule, and it just seemed like I was training time for dollars. And when I was young, I always wanted to join the FBI or some type of law enforcement. And he had me write out everything I valued about that job switch, like going into the FBI, like what about it is attractive to me. So I wrote everything that was important. So the fact that I love physical fitness is a high value target for me. The fact that I love investigation, I love a sense of justice, I love, and he basically got me to lay out all these elements that I found attractive in it, but he was like, okay, now that you love those things, do you need this system, this job, to meet those needs for you? And he's like, the fact is, I don't. I could get those, I could practice, I could learn, I could train, and all the things I wanted to do with my life without going that route. And so that's basically what I did. That was a big turning point in my life in terms of career and decision. And because I realized, I could get those goals. I could go, okay, if I want to be good with firearms, I could train in firearms. If I want to be good at martial arts and fitness, I could pursue that. I don't need this job. Everything I thought this job would give me, I could have outside of that. And I'd rather create my life around those things without all the red tape and all the hours and all that kind of stuff for that. So anyway, that's just kind of a personal example of something I found out where a friend basically, laid out what, I guess you could call those my strengths, or what my focuses were on, what I valued. And then, but in terms of weaknesses, I've had friends through the years point out where I had blind spots, where I tried too hard, or I've been a people pleaser and stuff like that, where I've cared too much about people's perspective or opinions about myself, and let those kind of guide my feelings or the decisions I made. I wouldn't go do something that I thought would get a negative reaction from people, and I've learned to really embrace that. It's much more valuable for me to voice my opinion and not care about the feedback and the backlash, rather than assert myself on the world, rather than the world dictating who I am. And, because there's this old quote that says, some people live life, but most people have life lived them. And it's totally true, in terms of identity and the self-awareness we're talking about. If you don't assert yourself on the world and know who you are, the world will just bend you, and you'll just be going with the flow of culture. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Totally resonate with that. And that quote that you mentioned about the life will essentially bend you, and that if you don't have that strong foundation, that groundedness, and asserting yourself and moving in your own direction, then you're easily at the whim of life, or at other people's influences, other environments that will of course adjust, and they'll end up bending your decisions and things. And Yeah, I totally get that. I think what I wanted to get a little bit of clarity is we hopped into self-awareness, and I'm not sure if we finish. We sort of touched on identity, why being decisive is crucial to identity and relationships. We touched on that at first, and I think we jumped over to self-awareness. Did you want to? Okay, cool. So should we jump back into identity and relationships and just spend a little bit of time on that? Because I think that's a really cool topic, and we can jump around the place. I think that's cool.
Yeah. It's my personal opinion that that a lot of people are really ill-defined, and I say this as someone who's 33 years old, who's been constantly trying to evolve and shape my identity and things like that. And
hey, Chris.
Really, what I've noticed is we have to really operate on the principles that are going to lead our life. And that's what I find with a lot of guys is they just don't have any principles. They just don't have any values. Like they sort of operate and pick up. They choose, certain things here and there, and maybe it's stuff they learn from their parents or from their peers, but they don't know why they're operating that way. They're kind of just going with the flow. But a stronger identity will be had when you base it around a set of principles, and they can be virtues. They could be things like courage and integrity and honesty and self-sacrifice, things like that. Or they could be more, those are like more the masculine tactical virtues of those things. But there's forgiveness, there's mercy, there's those.
Can you hear us okay, Chris? By the way, sorry, Josh. Can you hear us all right, Chris? Since you're listening in, we got the laptop here because we had some tech issues there. So we got Josh on the lap.
Let me know if I'm coming through okay over there.
Yeah, we sit here conversing for the next bit, and then we get off the Skype call, and then it turns out that none of you guys can actually hear us on Facebook Live. So.
That would be bad.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they can hear us. We've had Stephen and Chris jump on so far, just on the live stream, and then the other guys will probably pick up. They'll probably catch up once we jump off the live stream.
If you could hear me, just send a like or whatever.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Chris says the sound's good, so all right, that's perfect. Yeah, we're just doing the best we can this time, and then I think we're going to record a Google Hangout next time. But anyway, sorry about that, Josh. So you were saying?
But yeah. So the governing principles of our lives that we choose to lead. This is, you don't see that much because you don't hear that being told to guys in culture. They're told to pursue certain, high status things. Maybe become wealthy, become stronger, become independent. But no one really addresses why. So you got to start with why, and that's actually a great book. Start with Why. I recommend checking out that book, and it's by Simon Sinek. And finding your why for how you're going to navigate your life, because unless you're attached to good reasons of why you pursue the ideals, the virtues you do, and it takes a lot of homework. It takes getting alone, studying, learning about what you value and don't value, those preferences again, and if you, some of the things you can do to train yourself to have a more well-rounded identity is to become a faster decision maker. Watch it when the times where you're kind of just not caring. When you say I don't care to make a decision about that. I don't care to make an opinion about that. Learn to force yourself to have an opinion. Like start to have an opinion about everything. Doesn't mean it can't change, or doesn't mean you have to hold to it and protect it. You could form and shape and evolve your opinions through time, but it's good. Learn to embrace one, research one about everything. Because you're just going to have a more well-rounded identity, and choose one book to read and read it all the way to the end. Say you're not going to stop. You're not going to just read half a book. You're going to go all the way. And then write what stands out to you, because the more clarity you get, the more building a life of purpose becomes easier. But it all goes goes back to that why. If you don't have strong enough reasons to pursue a goal or to grow in this way and with your identity, then you'll embark on a journey, on a project, a goal, and halfway through, when you hit rough times, you're just going to quit, because that why wasn't strong enough.
Yeah, perfect. I love that. When you were saying that, I was curious. Can you think about the last time when you, before you had realized what your why is? Can you remember that time of your life when you didn't have a why, and then you made the decision to discover what your why was?
Yeah. Before I really sat down and really started asking myself that question, of why the things that matter to me. There was always this intrinsic sense of what I cared the most about. I knew I cared about personal growth. I knew I was just attracted toward strong things. Whether it was comic books as a little kid or iconic figures in history that I used to read about, leaders, conquerors, whatever it was. Definitely more of the masculine side of things. I knew that represented a part of me that it was appealing to. So, but I didn't know why I cared about it, and just liking those things wasn't enough to really make me shape my life. It was a little bit, it made me very active and interested in a lot of topics, but there's so much more than that. It is when you want to sit down and craft out your life plan, you need to really need to base it around a set of principles. So I've been, guys, they get into relationships, but their principles are what make them who they are, and unless they're the type of man to be well-rounded, to really warrant the respect of the woman they're with, they've done no self-work or self-growth, and then they wonder why over time the woman loses respect for them. It's like, well, who were you? Were you the type of man to warrant such respect? Maybe she was interested in you for a couple of things, but if respect is lost, that longevity will definitely go away. And that's kind of another tangent, for sure. But it's all linked to our identity. As we move through the world, we'll do it a lot more efficiently if we're respectable. And you're only respectable if you have your shit together, so to speak.
Yeah, this is a great conversation to have. I think, when you're referencing identity, when you're talking about identity for the guys. Hey, Chris, good to see you. Hopefully you can hear us all right. We've had to play around with technology, but we've managed to get it working. So we're using we've got Josh here on the laptop actually through Skype. But next time we're going to be more organized, and we're going to get a Google Hangout, I think, and then record that, post it in the group, run the live at the same time, that sort of thing. So when you're talking about identity, I was getting a real clear impression that identity for you, your reference when you're referencing identity, is being clear on who you are as a person, on what you believe in, on what you'll stand for, on what you won't stand for, on the things that you're really passionate about in your life, the things that you really care about. Clarity on these things, is that a pretty safe to say?
Yeah, that's right. And it's a deep philosophical question too. Who are you? And so I would say two things on that. It's common. We live in an achievement-based culture. So especially in America, in the West, but I'm sure it's very similar there too, where your identity is based a lot on achievement, and it's especially that way with men. The constant pressure from society is how capable are you? Don't be strong, don't be a failure, you must succeed at all cost. Don't ever admit weakness. These are the unspoken themes that exist in an achievement-based culture. So in one sense, your identity is a little bit linked to that in terms of what you do. There's a great quote from, I think it's the second Batman movie, The Dark Knight, with Heath Ledger, as the Joker, and the no wait, I think this is Batman Begins. So this is the first one where the girl, the female lead in the movie, she says to Bruce Wayne, she goes, you know, Bruce, it's not who you are underneath, it's what you do that defines you. And this sounds correct. It sounds right, but that's just one part of identity, our actions. You know, they say, you know, basically she's saying you are what you repeatedly do. Kind of, but you are more than the source of your actions. So if I try something and I fail, and I try something and I fail, am I the type of person that is a failure? Am I a failure by definition of those repeated actions? No. You know, but if I, you know, in some sense, if I lift weights every day, am I a weightlifter? Yes, you know, so it's half true. But your identity also has to be in your own intrinsic value of who you are, the worth that you put on yourself as a person, that is indisputable of action. You know what I mean? So you have worth despite the effects of your action. So the answer is both. You know, you have to know you're valuable, what you want, what your principles are, and that defines your self-worth. And then you have your actions, which are the gauge of your identity. You know, and that your preferences, and you know, you can't say you're a man that loves bodybuilding, let's say, but you never eat right and you never go to the gym. Your actions aren't congruent with your identity. You can't say you love women and you respect them and you want to be with one for a long time when you're, you know, when you have a tendency to flip out or cuss them out or let them control you or bend to their wishes, you know. So we have to be congruent with our actions and our self-worth as a person. So, yeah, identity is it's an external, internal thing. Action plus the value that we get based off on the inherent principles that we operate on.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that. Yeah, it's the external plus the internal, and I remember I went to a Toastmasters event once where, awesome, Chris is agreeing with you there, Josh. So I remember I went to a Toastmasters event once, and this was when I was scanning around some of the different Toastmasters events, the public speaking training, and I wanted to see what the level was in the city of speakers, and just see if there was a unit of speakers where I could actually learn and level up from. And I sat down with one lady at one of these events, and we're about to get started, and I asked her how long she'd been doing Toastmasters for, and she said 7 years. And I said, wow. I thought to myself, well, 7 years, that's a long time. And I asked her what her experience was like before, and she said, I was really shy, and I was really uncomfortable, and I couldn't public speak at all. I was just shy and uncomfortable in front of people in general. And she said I'd get really nervous and I'd be shaking and things. And I thought, wow, like here's somebody who's come from a place, like I can relate to that, because that was me in high school, all the way up to probably about 17, 18 until I started to really work on myself. And so anyway, so she got up and she spoke. And what I noticed was that I could tell she'd really created this big gap between where she used to be and where she is now. However, she was doing all these things on the outside, all these external things that Toastmasters had taught her what good polished public speakers would do. And so she was doing the hand gestures, she was doing the pause, she wasn't using any ums and ahs or buts, or at least she was limiting them, all this technical stuff, right? Except her internal stuff was projecting through her external, and because she hadn't worked on, what we call inner game or the internal, that was reflecting through in her speaking. And I think I love what you're saying there about it's not just what you do, it's where it's coming from the inside, from the core there as well.
Yeah, it's very true that you can become good at something in skill.
Hey Simon, good to see you.
Without it being congruent to how you feel. Like, I've had some jobs, I've done some things that I did not feel represented me on the inside, but I was good at them. You know what I mean? Like, some skill, and some guys. That's why I do believe, you can learn to talk good. You could learn to have good outside game. You could have, good social skills or whatever. But if it doesn't match who you are, then on the inside, you're gonna hate it. Like you're not gonna have a lot of fulfillment. Just no matter how good you get at those motions, going through those motions. So, that's why everything you do on the outside should stem from what you love, and don't do anything that you don't really love and enjoy and stuff like that. We live in an age where we really don't have to do that anymore. It's we got technology, we got so much opportunity around to be taken advantage of that. It's much easier to build a congruent life than it used to be.
Yeah, and something you just said there. Yeah. So you said something about it was to do with other people and your engagement, like when you're talking about like you can go and do things in front of people, and it reminded me of when I was younger. Like say when I was like 17 years old, I'd be engaging with some of the cool kids, and these were kids who were Pacific Islanders at my school, so they were these kind of like, they spoke a bit different, they had this different lifestyle. These guys were considered, I guess, kind of like, you think of them as like they were into like hip hop and things, but they were the popular kids in school. And I remember one day, like it was a nice sunny day, and I walked up to these guys, and I just started hanging out with them. They were a little bit more popular, they're basically the popular kids in school. And I remember one of the guys, he said something like, he cracked a joke, and I looked across from him, and I just laughed in response, but I didn't necessarily find what he said funny, but everybody else was like, laughing at things, and I just thought by default, I should just laugh, right, so that I can fit in, so that I can seek approval, right? It's these approval-seeking behaviors, and I kind of share that because it's kind of funny, like thinking about it now, in that, say like in success with women. I mean, I think all of us are at different levels here, and so I would never consider myself, the success with women guy. I probably wouldn't even consider myself necessarily success with women, because I think that's a very generalized thing to say, right? But what I would say is that if I'm engaging with somebody, whether it's yourself, or whether I'm engaging with a woman or whatever, right? Engaging with anybody, it's like if somebody cracks a joke and you don't find it funny, don't feel like you have to like laugh at that joke, right? Like don't feel like you have to fold yourself and be inauthentic as a result of being reaction and validation seeking, just so that you can get approval from that interaction. Does that resonate with you? Like I know that
Oh yeah. Laughter is a funny thing, like an interesting tool. If you ever just want to go in and test how well you own the room, or how well you present yourself in a social situation, just go and you could greet someone and just smile and chuckle. And I mean, you don't even have to say anything. Just look at someone in the eyes, smile, and see what their reaction is back. Usually they'll have to laugh. And you could say a joke if you want to, and it could be dumb. But you'll notice, if you laugh as you say it, the natural instinctual reaction is for the other person to automatically start laughing, even if it's before they heard the rest of the joke, or just because of how you say it, the expression on your face. Like, people want to be led in these social interactions and stuff. So anyway, that's just a fun kind of little test. I mean, if you work in an office or anything like that, and kind of the one or two people who the guys who kind of are well respected in the group, if they make a joke where everybody hears it, just you'll hear everybody chuckle, even if it was the dumbest thing you ever heard, but it's just an example of that, that. But yeah, I mean, like, have your preference. Like, if something's not funny, like, that's the more congruent guy, the more person with an established identity is unaffected by those things. I mean, of course there's common courtesy, but those things, it's like, you will make the joke, you will respond to the things you want to respond to, and but most people aren't naturally like that. It's kind of funny to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that about the guy who's more established and more grounded, and it reminds me of that what I just mentioned there, like with the popular kids, when I engage with them and the kid said a joke and I was like, ha 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 ha. but I didn't find it funny, and so I was being reactive, not proactive. And when you talked about like the guy who's most like sure of himself in the room, the guy who's most grounded, or using the alpha beta, or using, it reminds me of like, you're either in reaction or you're reactive, or you're in proaction or you're proactive. And it's like, where are you coming from, right? Like, are people reactive to you, or are you reactive to your environment, to people, to places, experiences, events? It's not to say that you don't let things come in and you don't engage with them, but are you being proactive or reactive? I really, hey Michael, good to see you. We've got Josh here on the Skype call. We haven't managed to, we couldn't get our Google Hangout working today, so we're playing. Hopefully you guys can hear the audio all good. It seems like we're pretty good with that. So, but yeah, so being proactive or reactive. It's funny that you mentioned that, because that just came up for me.
Yeah, that's kind of a good segue to the alpha word, and kind of what that means. And I feel like I wish we could reclaim that word, because it's been so misused and so put in different contexts, and like, what does it really mean to be an alpha? On one hand, I hate the word. I hate the concept, because it's like, it's almost it's just a sign of like taking authority of an ego boost, and that's not really what it is. And then on the other hand, on the far other extreme, it's like almost a toxic word, like you tell a woman, you're alpha, and she, it almost has this overly masculine, barbaric kind of sense, kind of notion to the word. But really, to me, the alpha is someone who would never use the word alpha, right? Like, the alpha is someone who doesn't care about being alpha. The more you care about it, the less you make it cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you have to tell people you're alpha, you're not that alpha. If you have to wear a T-shirt that says, I'm alpha as F, like you're probably not there, buddy, but it's funny, to me, just my own personal definition of it is like, being alpha is your ability to control the circumstances of your life, like having enough power and control over your freedom, your circumstances, able to be mobile in your life and overcome obstacles. That's when you're alpha. Like, if you can't do that, if you have a lot of roadblocks and hindrances, and or you're really weighed down by negative emotions and things like that, then you're not there. So to me, it's all about capability. The most capable person is the alpha. So we all strive to have more self-ownership, more control in our life, in our circumstances, and that's what makes us more powerful, so to speak.
Absolutely.
But it's far too deep of a concept to tie it to being domineering or overly masculine or just strong in self. Like, those are all just bits and pieces.
Absolutely. Fantastic conversation so far, man. I'm really enjoying it, and I think the guys are going to enjoy it. I know Chris has been listening along. I'm not sure, in and out for a bit. Michael just jumped on for a little bit there. He's going to come back and watch it. So I think a lot of the guys are going to jump back on and watch it later on. So yeah, this is great, man. And I wanted to come back again, just circle back around and just see how many ways we can come at this identity side. And one thing that popped up for me was that, first of all, like, I guess I should come up with really a disclaimer for the start of all our podcasts, right? Because, like, there's a little bit of it in the pin post at the top of this group and in the section there, but in general, like, like, we all have different beliefs, respect each other's beliefs, be flexible in your beliefs to a certain degree, or I was having this conversation with my brother yesterday, my brother's been in and out of rehab for the past 15 years, and he's just come into a space I call the looking zone, where he's more flexible in his behavior, is more open to learning new things. And I was driving down the road with him yesterday, and the sun was shining, beautiful day, And I looked across from him, and he's looking quite bright, and his skin's better, and he's not looking like he's, half dead. He's still got the scars over his neck, where, and wrists and things, where he's, been in situations of, suicide and these things. So he's a guy who's really struggled with a lot of things. And so I'm driving along the road with him, and I said to him, look, like, he said to him, what did he say? He said, I was talking to him about some friends I can introduce him to, some, because it's important to surround yourself with people who are the type of people that you most want to be like if you're in a place where you're wanting to grow. And, like I talk about having mentors, having people at the same sort of level of understandings of you, and then mentoring. So you've got those 3 levels so that you're not constantly looking at your mentors going, I'm not there right now, or looking at like people you're mentoring going, like I'm the shit or whatever, right? Like, and he said something to me while we're driving. He said, I'm pretty set in my ways, but he said, I guess I could, I was just pretty set in my beliefs, but I guess I could learn, I think I could maybe learn some things. And I said, look, it's important to have your own beliefs, but it's also important to be flexible enough to be open ears, open heart, open-minded enough that when other people share their beliefs with you, that you can let those in. And some of them, look, you can try them on, see if they fit for you. If they fit for you, great. If they don't fit for you, just move them on. It's okay. Have that space to allow that. And so I shared that with him. And I think that coming back to like what you're talking about, as we move into more of a conversation around identity, I wanted to, I guess, with what I just shared there, what's your thoughts on that? Being flexible enough with your, what are your thoughts on that, Josh?
A couple things jump to mind. One is a particularly deep thing, but one basic thing is just that everybody's got something to teach. No one should be so proud that they can't learn from anybody. I mean, anybody who they consider not as smart as them to people who are smarter than them. Everybody has something to teach. And you are a teacher. Everybody is a teacher because there's always somebody who doesn't know something you know. So we're all teachers, and we all, and in terms of mentors, it's like, it's good to get around guys. I like, my kind of motto is like, get around people who are a little bit better than you, but not so much so that you feel disconnected from them. Like some uber intellectual who you just feel so disconnected from. Get somebody who's a little bit above your level, who challenges you, and makes you want to grow. And like I asked a teacher one time, a mentor of mine, I was like, how do you teach? How do you kind of instruct people? And he's like, I don't talk to where they are. I talk a little bit to where they need to be. So it's like don't speak to them at the level they're at. Speak a little bit ahead of that, so that they have some homework to do. They have some growing to do. Does that make sense? Like, so they're challenged a little bit. You don't want to baby them, and anyway, so we all have something to learn is basically the thing. But the other point, on a much more deeper topic is like just that idea of truth, and without going too far down that rabbit hole, it's like it's like truth. The concept of truth, whatever it means to you, is if something is true, then it has value no matter where it comes from, right? No matter the source. So my rule is like any bit of truth that's found is usable. Now it could come from something different, maybe something you believe in or don't buy into fully, but if there's an aspect of truth in it, use it. There's an aspect of truth in science and math and philosophy and religion and whatever it may be. Use it. Like, it's things that are true. I mean, bottom line, So I just say that to say it kind of just goes hand in hand with that aspect of, everybody can teach us. Be open enough to use the good, pull from different sources, different modes of knowledge to grow yourself, if that makes sense. Absolutely,
yeah. Being being clear in who you are, being grounded in your identity, or being
Yeah,
grounded.
and the more, and I think this is important too. A good quote I heard: "Eat the meat, spit out the bones." So, you know, gain what's good and reject what's non-usable for you. You know, if you do that with everything in life, from the books you read to the audio you consume to whatever you learn, you know, you keep the good, you spit out the bones. And so I've always liked that quote, and that takes maturity. That way your identity doesn't get rocked. Like, there's a lot of sensitive people in the world nowadays. Like, some people, they can't even have certain conversations because it'll just shake the foundation of their identity. They'll get outraged, you know. They hear a political view they don't like or a religious view they don't like, and they freak out. Like, they just have to shut their ears to it. Well, like, you're not very grounded in your identity if you can't absorb and reject what you don't agree with, and just appreciate and understand that people have different perspectives. Like, so that's a real mark of maturity, a real mark of a strong identity. Eat the meat, spit out the bones.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, you made a comment there about sometimes people can't even be exposed to ideas or allow themselves to be exposed to ideas because it will rock their identity. And I love that statement that you just mentioned there. Let's talk about that. Like, somebody, have you ever had a time when you had an identity, like there was a part of your identity, and it got rocked because of something you did, because of maybe something you didn't live up to, an expectation that you didn't meet of yourself. Maybe you were working towards a goal, maybe you didn't meet it, and that affected your identity and the way that you felt and your happiness and the way that you were living your life. Can you think of a time when your identity was rocked specifically and share that?
Oh man, I guess in a way, maybe. Let's see. I think my identity was rocked when I felt like I was failing myself in some of my personal relationships. You know what I mean? When I was not meeting up to the standards of what I expected from myself, there was things I believed and things, ideals I had set for myself, and just a mindset that I have. And there were times in life that I didn't live up to that, and that rocks your identity, because it's like, well, who are you then? You know, like, who are you? What do you believe the things you believe is strongly enough? Do you know who you are? Because you didn't keep true to these things you say are important to you. And so that was a big learning experience, because it taught me that we really have to it's great to have ideals and goals, and like, not meeting those things doesn't make you a hypocrite. It just means you have standards. It just means you have preferences, and everybody fails their own standards and preferences from time to time. That's okay. That doesn't mean you're a hypocrite. That doesn't mean you have to lower the bar, or that your identity is lost. But sometimes in life, when you may have feel like you failed the level you set for yourself, it can feel like kind of a lost sense of self. And I think they call it the dark nights of the soul. You know, where you're wrestling with those questions of identity and stuff. And so mine was in the relationship sense, because I kind of expected better of myself in certain relationships and stuff. And so when that happens, what I grew from that was that your identity is not fully linked to where you succeed and where you fail. And that's why it's good to operate in principles, but know you're not only your successes, or you're not only your failures. You're both, and that you keep striving, and you have to keep your identity intact, even when you fail yourself. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah,
absolutely. Like you've had that time, like saying your personal relationships where you're not living up to the identity, the expectation that you created for yourself of how you think you should act in that relationship, and then that rocked your identity because you weren't meeting that. And then you go through that dark time, or go through the storm, the darkness. You grow, you come out the other end, and there's then we've got the calm after the storm as well, right? Yeah, actually, it reminds me of a time, a similar time. Good to see you, Chris. That you're still listening, and fantastic, my friend. So, and thanks for engaging with us as well, Chris. Great to have you along. If there's anything that